Hi, Dr. Whitney. So, for my letter, I decided to format it as me sending it to her today in present day 2020. Um, Without much further ado, let's jump right in. So, in my letter, I firsthand mentioned that I would like to refer to her on a first name basis. I chose to do this because I figured that it would be easier instead of referring to her as Mrs. Streisand or Mrs. Brolin because she's married to James Brolin. I wasn't really sure on how to refer to her, so I just established a connection. I explicitly said, for the sake of my imagination, I would like to refer to her as Barbara. Um, I then go on to explain why I'm writing the letter, that I am a huge fan, and I'm not really sure if she'll even read it, but I also say that I think she's the type of celebrity to allow me to pour my heart out through a letter. So I then do that. My next paragraph, I share my gratitude for what she's done in her lifetime in her career. I mentioned that she started out in Brooklyn and made a name for herself, that it couldn't have been easy because women directing films in the 60s and 70s and 80s, um, it really wasn't heard of. When she began doing that, she was the first woman to do that exactly. So I mentioned that it's impressive to me that she's done it, which is why I admire her. Um, in my next paragraph, I describe her singing career and her award record. I go about saying that her career in the singing industry and music industry is enough to satisfy me for a multitude of lifetimes. But then I go to say that transitioning from the music industry to the film industry, she made a name for herself in the film industry as well. Her passion for film is extremely evident. I decided to include this because I figured that it would show that I know about her career and don't just think of her as a director, but I wanted to recognize every aspect in her career. Then I speak about her career in the film industry. I find it incredible that she directed, produced, co authored, and starred in her first movie, Yentl. I mentioned that it's appalling to me that she was turned down from almost every popular Hollywood studio until she finally found one that was able to have her complete artistic control over the film Yentl. I tell her that it's admirable to me that she kept pushing through each barrier and did the whole thing. Until she got what she wanted. I then go to say that Yentl received 3 Academy Award nominations, but it's kind of snubbed out by not recognizing that Barbara Streisand directed it. To me, I understood it as it's because she's a woman and she's gonna get snubbed out. Um, I mentioned that she didn't win Best Director, but and that was a reason for controversy during the time that she was producing Yentl. So I asked her, how are you able to push past this and do it all over again with The Prince of Tides? I go on to describe that The Prince of Tide received more Academy Award nominations than the first, but it's again disregarded for Best Director. I mention this because I wanted to focus on the fact that she had been snubbed as a director. I understand that she won awards and had more nominations as a Golden Globe, and she actually won Best Director in the Golden Globe in the Golden Globe Awards. But I wanted to focus on the Academy Awards. Excuse me, because I found it more interesting that she had been dismissed as a female director. I then go to say not only do her films speak for herself, her direction is noteworthy to say the least. In one of her interviews, she mentions that she's surprised she survived all the adversity that was presented to her. That interview is so iconic that they have included it as every introduction to real women filmmakers on film. I say that she deserves much more credit than she has been given for her first two films. So I ask her again, how were you able to ignore the controversy of you being a director and a female and continue to work hard and establish herself as a director and producer in the film industry? I then go on to focus solely on Yentl. I wanted to focus on Yentl because it includes more from her heritage of being a Jew, and it was more relatable to me. I describe it as reminding me of Disney's Mulan and Andy Fickman's She's the Man, because in both films, the woman protagonist is forced to disguise herself as a man in order to get what she wants. And that's the exact same case in Yentl. So I focused more on Yentl than The Prince of Tides because it's more about, to me, female empowerment and the fact that women have to take extra steps in order to be recognized. I end the paragraph by saying that she broke the barrier of a woman's role in film by becoming a director and making history through that. And the impression that Yentl's father has on her throughout Yentl makes it very clear that Barbra Streisand's own father had a heavy influence on her life and her career as well. I then go to say, another question I have for you is, how do you feel knowing that you broke the barrier on a woman's inability to be taken seriously in the film industry? She speaks a little bit about this, and my answer that I researched and found, it was saying that in an interview with Studio 10, she mentioned that her legacy is very important to her because her father's legacy was very important to her, so she wants her legacy to be very important. I take a little detour and speak about her father, and I ask her, do you believe he influenced you that greatly, despite his passing when you were at a very young age? And then I made a personal connection, and I said, my father and I are extremely close, so the fact that you were able to do all this without a father figure is mind-boggling to me, which is another reason why I find her super inspiring. My second to last paragraph, I discuss the fact that she's a renowned singer, actress, and director, but to me, one of her most admirable attributes is the fact that she's done all this as double minority. She is a woman, and everyone knows women have to fight their way to be seen as equals in every industry, but she's also a Jew, and that really hit home with me because I'm a person of color, so I wanted to discuss her Jewish heritage and the fact that she's so philanthropic toward it. She's donated to the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and it makes me an even bigger fan of hers because if you're able to give back to your own community and your heritage, why wouldn't you? Which is another reason and aspect why I find her super inspiring. I end the letter and I say, Barbra Streisand, before I knew about every achievement you've experienced in your lifetime and career, I was absolutely certain that you were a woman of greatness. I tell her she's overcome so much and made history in almost everything she's done. I admire every single thing about her and the fact that she's inspired many women like me and many others to choose and not neglecting their dreams. I wanted to end on that note because it was inspiring and kind of draw back full circle to the reason why I'm a huge fan. I end the letter, say my salutation, and then I put a PS. I say hi to Josh Brolin if you would be so kind. I loved his portrayal of Thanos in Marvel's Avengers films. I included this in the letter because I figured that it would have a more personal connection. Barbra Streisand's second husband is James Brolin, and James Brolin's son from his other marriage is Josh Brolin. So I wanted to mention that as just another connection to me and the fact that I love the Marvel series, but also that drawing back to the fact that it's a letter, and since I'm a fan and she's a celebrity, I wanted to mention that I'm just in awe of her and her whole famous family, that I wanted her to if she had the opportunity to say hi to one of the biggest celebrities that I'm a fan of. That's basically it, my letter. This was extremely fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it because I learned more about Barbara Streisand, who is an icon, and more about myself. So thank you for that.